everybody, Sophie Plays here today, and we are going to be ranking cards in Arena that are legendaries. They're going to be neutral, so we're going to exclude class cards for now, but I may do another tier list with the class ones as well. There are 53 neutral legendaries altogether, so I'm going to make my tiering quite quick. But I'm still going to give a reason for each placement. Hopefully this video won't be 500 minutes long. Let's get to it. So here is my tier list. I joined Tier Maker to do this list, and I'm also going to put a link down below, so if you want to do this tier list yourself, you can do so, and you don't need to sign in. You can just do it without signing in, so that's kind of fun. Anyway, let's get to it. So just to give you a quick brief on the rankings, S tier will be amazing, extraordinary, hence S tier. A tier will be pretty good. Not S tier quality, but it's still solid. B tier will be above average, so it's pretty decent, it's good. Then you've got C, which is just average. You've got D, which is just below average. E, it's bad. And F tier, I wouldn't touch it with a 5-foot pole. So here we go. Alrighty, let's go. 53 cards. We're going to have to go quick. So the first one is Allah. I'm going to put it below average. I think it's very easily removable, but I think it's still a decent enough threat. Next one we have is Alexstrasza Lifebinder. I think Alexstrasza is about A tier. I think she's really good, great for getting lethal, although it's very likely that you may be too behind to get the true benefit of it. So I'm just going to have to scroll down because the cards disappeared. Next we have is Archdruids. Narrow something. I'm sorry, I can barely read these. Narrowlex. I'm going to put B tier. The cards he gives you are pretty good. But I believe it's just a little slow to consider it for A or S tier. Next we have is Baron Geddon. I'm also going to put him in B tier. I think he's a great... he has a great effect for 7 mana, and he's an elemental, which is cool. Baron Rivendare, I don't ever see this really working in Arena. I think he just goes straight to F tier, not really my type of cards. Got Blade Master Samuro. I think he has a brilliant AoE effect, and if you buff him, it's French kiss. Next you have is Blinkchong 5000. So unless you want to get a weapon for lethal, I don't think it's that great. I don't like giving my opponent a weapon. That's why it's going to go straight into E tier. Then you have Falnos. So I don't think it's as good as it used to be. I'm actually going to put it below average because I think there are much better cards that do what this card does. Next one we have is Brightwing. Add a random legendary minion to your hand. I'm going to put it at average stats. I think it's a really fun card, and you can get some really good cards from it. Next we have is Calm Bloodhoof. Now, ever since this card's been buffed, I actually think it's B tier. I think it's really good to have, so I would definitely consider drafting it. Next one we have is Cthulhu. I actually think this card's just about average, even though the cards it does shuffle into your deck are really good. I believe like you never... It's so hard to activate, like it doesn't happen. Next card we have is Deathwing. I believe this card is... Where would he go? I'd put him in B tier. I think he's pretty good. 10 mana, 12/12, destroy all minions. He's a great removal, has a nice body, but again, I feel like with the previous Deathwing, sometimes it's really easy to remove big stuff. Next we have is Dr. Boombastic. Sorry. I'm going to put him in C tier. I think he's a pretty average card now. He used to be pretty good, but a lot has changed since then. Same with Foe Reaper. I think he was pretty average back in the day, but I actually think he's below average now. I don't think the stats really make up for the benefit, sadly. Next we have is Gazlo. Now, whenever you cast a 1-mana spell, add a random mech to your hand. I'm going to put him in F tier. I hate the stats for the mana cost. I don't think he's that great. Next we have is Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. I've seen this card work out quite a bit, but I've also seen people just play as a 5-mana 4/6. So I'm going to put it about average because it's very 50-50 on whether this card works out. Next we have is Hemet. Now, I don't think Hemet's completely useless. That's why I'm going to chuck him in E tier. Like, there are a lot of very strong beasts in Arena that you could use him on. Next one we have is High Inquisitor Whitemane. I think she's below average. I think it's more of a win more card, right? So you have to be ahead for it to be really utilized properly. Next we have is Kalfar Sunstrider. I'm going to put him in F tier. I don't think he's great and I hate his stats. Next we have is Kazakus. I'm actually going to put him in A tier because if you manage to make a deck around him, he's brilliant. Like, he is a great card to have. But I wouldn't pick him if you don't have the type of deck for him. If you don't, then obviously he's F tier. Next card we have is Keymaster Alabaster. I think he's the easiest S tier out of the lots. He is really good and you end up getting a 1 mana cost card of whatever your opponent draws. Like, you're guaranteed it, so I think it's good. Next we have is Mukla. Now, I don't like giving my opponent stuff, so he's just going to go straight into E tier, unfortunately. And yeah, he's one of those cards you want to summon but not actually play. Next you have is King Togwaggle. I think it's easy F tier for this card. It's just, I don't see the point in it. Next we have is Lawkeeper Polkit. Now, before the nerf, when he was 4 mana 4/5, I would have put him a B. But I think he's just about average now. I think you could still utilize him pretty well, but overall, eh. Next we have is Magtheridon. I'm just going to put him in F tier right away and just leave it at that. Next we have is Maeve. Now, Maeve's really, really good. I love this card. I'm kind of struggling where to put her. I think I'll put her in A tier though. I think she's great. But, don't know. And then you got Malagos. I think Malagos is pretty average compared to the rest of the dragon counterparts, so we'll put him in C tier. Got Mankrik. We're going to put him above average. I think the shuffling of the card is really good, and if your opponent draws it, it's a great benefit. Next we have is Marin the Fox. I personally wouldn't draft this card in Arena because I don't really want to waste 8 damage on something that isn't face or clearing the board. That said, I don't think it's completely useless because the treasure is actually quite nice. Next we have is Master Oakheart. I'm just going to put him in F tier. I think he's pretty awful because at the end of the day, your arena deck is the random assortment of cards. It's just going to summon some bad minions, I think. Next we have is the 9/7. Whenever a enemy minion dies, summon a leopard gnome. I'm just going to put this below average. I think the stats are very understated, and I just don't think the playoff is worth it. Next we have is Mimiron's Head. Again, I'm going to put this at E tier. It's just a 5 mana 4/5 at the end of the turn. Only reason it's not in F tier is because it's a mech. Next one we have is Mogo the Ogre. I actually think this card's really, really fun, and I've actually won a few games because of this card, so I'm going to actually put it in average. I think it's pretty good. Next we have is Moonfang. I think Moonfang's really good. I'm actually going to put him... Ooh, I think it's between A and B tier, isn't it? I'm going to put him in B tier. I feel like you can ping him quite a bit, but I think he's really solid. Next we have is the Devourer. I actually think this card's brilliant. I'm putting him straight in S tier. Now, I understand if you're probably thinking, well, but even if you're just getting rid of one card in your opponent's hand, it's really good. I'm sorry if the top bit's cut off. I'm just trying to fit everything on screen. Next we have is Nosdermo. I think the stats for the mana cost are alright, but I still think it's just below average. It doesn't really do anything, and I feel like you can get lower cost giants. So yeah. Oh, I didn't mean to put that there. He's supposed to go all the way up here. I think the Zoth is really game-changing, and I think he's really, really fun. He can actually bring you back from the dead. Like, I think he's that good. Next we have is Onyxia. I think Onyxia is above average. The fact that she fills up your board with whelps is really, really nice. So, and it is a threat. Like, people have to deal with it. Next we have is Overlord. So not only do you get a rush, but it buffs everything in your hand. I think this card's pretty good, especially if your opponent can't kill it right away. Again, Shadowhunter Vol'jin, I'm actually going to put an A tier. I think there's so much you can do with this card, either to remove a big threat or just replace your minion with a better minion in your hand. Next we have is Silas. I'm going to put him in S tier because people are still scared of him to this day, even though Bunny's a little bit scarier. Next we have is Sneed's Old Shredder. Sneed's I think I'm going to put in average because there are some pretty bad legendaries you can get from him. Next we have a Sphere of Sapience. I'm going to put it in last place. I think that card is pretty awful. Next we have is Fordring. So it's Taunt, Divine Shield, Death Rattle, draw your highest cost minion. I don't think this card is awful. I think it's okay. It's a bit understated, but I think it for the payoff, I'm going to put it at average. Next we have Gore Fiend. Again, 3 mana, 3/4. It's an average. You could trigger your Death Rattle cards. You have the Darkness, which I think should be in last place. You probably know why. Toshli. I'm going to put in D. I don't think he's completely useless. Like, I think the spare part cards aren't as bad as people think they are. But I think he's understated for his cost. He doesn't do much, really. Next we have is Trogzor. Again, understated. He just dies to a claw machine. We have Vectus, which with the Death Rattle meta, I think is really decent right now. So I'm going to put him in average. We've got Yogg-Saron, which you never trigger because who has 10 spells in Arena? Please teach me your ways, unless you're priest. Next we have is Ysera. Everyone hates this card, so obviously it goes into S tier. Next card we have is Yosharaj, the Defiler. I think he's pretty good. I think he's above average. Oh, I'll chuck him in B tier. And then last but not least, we have Zola. I think Zola's a little slow. Still alright though. I'm going to put it below average. I think it could be better. Anyway, that is my list. Let me know what you get. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And if you really enjoy this type of content, please subscribe. It's going to be more similar content in the future. Have a good one all. Bye bye for now.